This episode is brought to you by Cap Z and Rick's Eyewear. Speaking of Rick's Eyewear, there's a huge announcement on the website. It's Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale, ladies and gentlemen, and do Rick's Eyewear have you covered? They just dropped their brand new New York collection. Funny that because we just spoke to Eric Decker from the New York Jets. These are the best sunglasses in the world. Italian Mazzucchelli acetate, German engineered hinges, and the best lenses in the world. Whether you're going to the beach or you're on the streets or you're in your car heading to the bar, these are what you need this summer. So check them out, www.rickseyewear.com.au. Enjoy the show. Eric Decker, one of the greatest humans alive, one of the best looking humans alive, and some amazing stories I can't wait to share with you. Well, first of all, Dex, welcome to Tommy Talks. It's an absolute honour, privilege. For everyone out there that doesn't know Dex, they must be sleeping under a rock. I'll give you a quick wrap up. This is your career in a nutshell. 8 years of NFL, 439 receptions, 16 yards, and 53 touchdowns, which, man, you're a touchdown machine. You've had a reality TV show. You've played with the Sheriff and many others. You're married to the world's best country pop singer, and you got 3 kids, beautiful kids. You're ultimate family man, good looking rooster, and now you're on Tommy Talks, brother. Welcome to the show.
Tommy, good to be here, man. Thanks for having me. It's good to see your face.
I know. That's what as I was doing all this, the last time we caught up was at a nice sushi place in 2017 in Nashville. I think when I think about that, it's like 4 years ago. It's bizarre, man.
Time has flown by. It is a while, and especially COVID too, I think just made things, I guess, feel longer in the sense of, being away from, obviously we're countries and oceans away, but being away from friends, even in the area, and COVID kind of restricting that, it's been awesome to finally kind of get back and have some FaceTime and share a beer, some sushi, and we need to do it again soon.
I know. I can't wait. I want to get back to the States really quickly. I think we can come back to the States and don't have to quarantine in Melbourne. So I might be a chance for Super Bowl and then sneak over. You don't know, mate. But thank you so much for joining us. I've been promoting yourself and everyone else in the sport since we met, and mate, first of all, I want to apologise about the Ravens, but since you've retired, like, I didn't have any teams, so then I started watching Lamar Jackson. I've fallen in love with Lamar Jackson. So what I will say though, if you've got any Denver tops lying around or anything, any old ones, I want to get my hands on one. I don't know where to buy one, so
I'll send you one.
Yeah, that'd be epic because I want a Denver one. Well, let's get into it, mate. There's so much to get through. So I'm really excited. I'm pumped. Let's start with college. Like you grew up in University of Minnesota. What was that like?
Yeah, so Minnesota was a great place to grow up, but a place that I necessarily don't want to go back to because it's very cold. A lot of months of cold and suiting up in the thick jackets, scraping your car of ice. But I would say that, a lot of my family's still there. My grandparents were farmers, so kind of like a German-Irish background, farming community. And I just had a lot of great memories. I grew up in a very small town, 3,000 people. And so, it was a very tight-knit community. Everyone was kind of there for each other. And I think really that created a lot of the values that I have today, and the appreciation that I have just for family life and, being a part of a community. And then I went to college in Minnesota, so I got to spend many, many years in Minnesota until I finally got out.
You did. And what I didn't realize until doing all my research, mate, it's been thorough, by the way, is that you were good at baseball. You're a superstar at baseball as well. So you played baseball and footy through college.
I did, yeah. So baseball was my first passion, actually. I grew up a Minnesota Twins fan, so MLB here in the States during the late 80s, early 90s, the Twins were a pretty good dynasty in that sense. And Kirby Puckett was my favorite player growing up. I had his jersey, probably wore it to school every day for like 4 months straight. Not sure if I washed it or not, but that was what I loved. We had an amateur baseball team in our community, and that's where honestly I went in the summers every night. I ball shagged, did the scoreboard, bat boy, just wanted to be around it. And I think that to me was kind of like infusing myself in the sport and watching older kids play it. A lot of my friends would join up and we'd play games during the game as well. And so baseball was a big part of my upbringing, and I loved it. And so I think I played it through high school, also played basketball, but baseball didn't give me the same opportunities as football in college in terms of scholarships and kind of getting away in that sense. And so I went to Minnesota to play football, ended up joining the baseball team 2 years later due to our coach being fired at that time, and really seeing the opportunity that, hey, I can move over and try to get in while there's no head coach for football.
Yeah, right. So that how do you juggle both of them at the same time?
It was extremely hard my second year. So we had a pretty good baseball team. So this was kind of my schedule was I did summer school, so I was always on campus working out, doing school really year round. Besides Christmas break was really the only time I got away. And so football started mid-June. We would train till August, which was training camp, and then start the games. And we'd go through really January because we'd play in a bowl game. So our season would end in November, have Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then we'd play a bowl game. Then I'd take probably a week or 10 days off, depending on how my body felt, and get into baseball. And so then baseball went from top of January through June because we would be playing in kind of the playoff or regionals of college baseball. And so there was one point where I just was so burnt out emotionally, physically, just because, I mean, I never had a break to be 20. And I actually got hurt my senior year of football. And I think it was kind of like the world or God's view saying like, all right, here's your time to like take some time off and get away from it, because otherwise I wouldn't have had that going into the combine, NFL draft. Yeah. And so I think it was a good step back realization that, okay, center yourself, get yourself in a good place mentally, because you got a career ahead of you.
Yeah, spot on. And not only did you, take your sport seriously, but you're a switched on unit, and you were studying business while you're at college. So you're doing it all whilst you're quite young.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. Just like you said, having Minnesota was a good business school, but to really, I went 3.5 years, got to graduate, and then I started a master's program just because I was honestly doing school year round. And so that I think really helped me just progress my career and set myself up, I guess, in that way after my sports career.
Did that business degree that you did then flow on to your NFL career and obviously what you're doing now, which we'll touch on later on, but does that seriously help you out with the foundation from college?
Yeah, I definitely believe so. I think there's a lot of fundamental things I learned that I carry over to everything. I mean, just kind of the financial foundation of, first of all, how to personally take care of yourself financially and your family, but then business-wise, how you create these business plans around the financial piece of it, and I would say that like my weakness has always been kind of the marketing side or creative side. And so I was lucky enough to marry into a very creative and like marketing genius, I call her, because I love the numbers. I'm analytical, like everything has to make sense for me. I'm very operational, I guess, in that sense. So it definitely carried over to, I think, my playing days and now just business in general.
So you're the CFO.
I won't go that far. I don't think I'm not the best accountant. I think I understand numbers and I love numbers, but I'm not going to give myself that title, no.
I find, your financial guy is quite boring, but you're obviously not boring. So yeah, you're definitely a hybrid. You sit in the middle, which is fascinating. And then you went to the combine. Talk to me about the combine. Obviously being an AFL player, or ex anyway, but we've got a similar thing where you go there and you just get thrown around to all these groups of, all these clubs that pick apart you and ask you some ridiculous questions. And I'm pretty sure you were injured. You had something wrong with your foot.
It was yeah. It's a meat market like you described it.
Isn't it, man?
It's crazy. I went into the combine. My senior year of college ended shortly because I had, abruptly in a sense, because I had a Liz Frank sprain, which is basically like a dislocation of your midfoot. So I had screws, a plate put in for 6 months, and then I had them removed. But yeah, going to the combine, honestly, being a white receiver in the National Football League is an anomaly in a sense on its own. But not being able to run the 40-yard dash, and like you said, there's just different things they put you through. They want to see how athletic you are. They want to see how smart you are, see if you have any like mental issues as well. So a lot of testing. And then, they just kind of pick you apart physically, what you look like, how you act, interview process to try to break you down, see if, first, you're being honest. Second, if, like I said, if you're crazy or not. And third, if you can retain information. Because I think what separates guys in the NFL isn't so much the talent. Like, the talent's really good. It's for longevity and to sustain a career. It's, are you consistent? Are you able to retain information and use your head? And so that was, I think, a big part of the combine that made me or set myself up because I couldn't physically do anything, and I had to kind of prove myself through those meetings.
Do you feel that because you couldn't physically do anything, you drifted a little bit in the draft, or you still went exactly where you thought you went?
I think if I would have proved myself in terms of like running the 40 and, I think the MO was, well, I think he's just slower. And I never ran a 40 throughout my college career because I was playing baseball. And so I believe I could have proved myself to run faster than they thought. And that may have helped me move up the charts in a sense. Also, being injured, I think, was a red flag. Like, okay, is he going to recover? What's it going to be like in a year? Is this going to pay out? So, truthfully, I was thankful for where I landed, obviously, but I think I could have, gone up a little bit if I wasn't injured.
While we're on the topic, because, I still remember when we went to the draft combine, we had so many interviews and so many funny stories. Do you remember any real weird shit that was going on? Like, did you ever have like one of the coaches ask you something really bizarre?
I mean, I've heard many stories myself from other guys with just crazy questions. I personally, I don't know if I just blanked out or shut it off that time frame. I don't remember truthfully even who I met with, what some of the conversations were like. I mean, it was just like, honestly, Groundhog Day. You're going through this cycle, and I just felt kind of like a machine, just kind of, like I said, just rolling.
The meat market.
The meat market. I can't think of anything. I'm sure there are a few, but not off the top of my head.
Yeah. How many interviews do you have? Or how many did you have?
I think I had about 17 or 18, like, with the whole team. So they had these individual rooms with owner, GM, front office, head coaches, assistant coaches. And then they also had kind of a bigger room set up with tables, and it was position coaches. So 3 o'clock was receivers, and you kind of went from one station to the other in each team to talk to the receiver coach or your position coach. And so a little bit of both. So I guess with the teams in general, it was like 16 or 17, and then every team has an individual position coach.
Were you intimidated, or you felt like you're quite mature at that point to handle all this?
I think there was definitely some anxiousness, some nervousness, but at the same point, I was like, I am who I am. So I was confident in talking football and knowing the X and O's of the game and stuff of that nature.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have dominated. That's fascinating. It's very similar. And then you obviously, you get picked up third round, if I'm correct. I can't remember the number, but you get picked up by the Broncos in what's an amazing draft class. What was it like to be drafted with the guys that you were? Tim Tebow, I think Demarius Thomas was your year as well. He was your partner in crime.
He was, yeah. He was the first pick of Denver that year, and it was awesome. I mean, we came in with such a great draft class, and a lot of guys, played for a pretty long period of time, which I think is pretty special when the average career for the NFL is 3.5 years. Being with, I guess, the draft class we had and the longevity that we all had, I think it was a pretty special group. Demarius is still one of my good friends. Tebow I see every once in a while. Zane Beadles, J.D. Walton, Cassius Vaughn was kind of a few guys from that group.
Fascinating. Tim Tebow. Let's touch on Tim Tebow. I don't know a lot about him, but as I was researching, to be honest, he's one of the biggest names ever to come through college, but he's probably the biggest fall from grace from what I've read. Now that's out of my mouth, but he's obviously got a huge personality. He's in the media. He's doing so well. But what was it like to, come through the system with him? And obviously you'll see who, you have the sheriff after him. Well, what was it that, why didn't he progress? What was it?
Yeah. Tim is such a good leader, natural leader. The guy has so much energy. I think, his work ethic, and he really did change the college game in terms of kind of the run, play action, throwing package that he was. And what didn't translate in the NFL was that the speed is so much faster, and you had to anticipate things as a quarterback. You had to get the ball out quick, and that's something he couldn't do, whether it was his throwing motion, whether it was just reading a play and, getting to his third step and just releasing it. Those are some things that he struggled with. But look at the year 2011. He just kind of willed the team to a playoff run because I remember games where we were down by like 2 touchdowns going to the fourth quarter. We had no offense. We threw the ball maybe like 8 times a game. And he would find a way to win. Like, honestly, in the last, quarter, last 4 minutes of the game, he would score a touchdown. We'd get down the field, kick a long field goal, boom, game over. And it's like 6 or 7 times that year we did that. And so I think what the front office saw was it's not a long-term or sustainable success plan because you have to really change everything and mold the offense around him. And that's hard to do in the NFL unless you have, Lamar Jackson can throw the ball really well. So not that he's that way, but you look at him, Patrick Mahomes, you can modify offenses around them because they are talented, but they can throw the ball just as good as they are on their feet. And so that was kind of the downfall of his career is we would have 3-step drops, they call them. So the quarterback would take 3 steps. Usually it was a route within 7-8 yards. Well, we had to extend our 3-step drops to like 10-12 yards because it was just a little bit slower for him to release the ball.
That's fascinating. I remember seeing his playoff game, which is kind of like put it on the map, but yeah, it's special. Let's talk about 2010, which is your rookie year. I find rookie year. I watch Hard Knocks now, and I just love when they kind of stitch the rookies up. They got to carry the candy. They got to do all those live shows. What was the memories for you in your rookie year during that preseason camp, and then the year in general? I know that your numbers are probably as small as they get. I guess that's what happens as a rookie. But what was it like? Can you remember much from your rookie year?
I sure do, yeah. I remember showing up, and first of all, the first time going to the Broncos facility, it was so surreal. It's been a lifelong dream to be a professional athlete. Early on, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I wanted to be the next Gary Puckett. But like getting to Denver, seeing the facility, seeing some of the guys, Champ Bailey, Brian Dawkins, these guys that I just grew up watching and idolizing, was like I'm sharing the locker room with them, and I'm on the same team as them, was really, really cool. And I would say the biggest thing from 2010 was not only Josh McDaniels, so the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots right now, he was the head coach. He would make the rookies remember every veteran's name. So you have probably 95 to 100 people on a roster during training camp. He'll make you stand up and say, all right, who's this guy? Give me what college he went to. And if you didn't get it right, 5:30 the next morning, you had to show up and you had to study your roster. So not only are you studying your roster with this extensive playbook that they have, the success they've had for 20 years in New England with Tom Brady, that was the offense we had. So trying to do that as a rookie and then learning every guy's name and what college they went to was intimidating. And so I can't tell you how many 5:30s I had along with my other rookie classmates, but it was definitely a welcoming visit to know that, like, okay, you better respect your elders, you better show up and do your work and keep your mouth shut. That was kind of the mentality of my rookie year, and I appreciated that in the sense that, especially if you're a draft pick and you feel like, oh, well, my roster spot's kind of protected, I won't, be concerned about losing a job. Well, that wasn't the case at all either with Josh McDaniels. Every week, he would bring in 2 new guys and release two guys. And I think some of it was just to keep the pressure on some of the veteran players. And there was one time where this 5th-round draft pick of our class got released, and it was like, wow, I mean, you aren't saved. Doesn't matter how much guaranteed money you have. Like, he'll get rid of you if you don't fit the mold. So that was definitely kind of an eye-opener for me. And also, I think on the field, going against Champ Bailey was a lot different than an Iowa Hawkeye cornerback or a Wisconsin Badgers. And look who it is.
Hey, Forrest, how are you, buddy? He's just woken up.
That is busy right now. I thought, why aren't you at school? You want to go to school?
Slept in. He's like me. I used to sleep in as well.
This kid. Well, we were up at 5:30 this morning because he was mad at me for not letting him watch a movie last night.
Oh, wow.
Woke up. That's the first thing he said. You didn't let me watch a movie.
That's great. What movie did you watch? What movie was it?
What movie? Well, we watched The Little Clifford last night, but what did you want to watch last night? He's in a superhero, so...
How old are you, Forrest, now?
Tell him, how old is he?
2? Is it 2? 3? 3. Wow.
All right. Give Dave a little bit, okay? I'll be up.
I watched another potty that you did, and you said that Forrest he's the man. He's just like a wrecking ball. Is that what you...
He's a wild child and a force to be reckoned with. I mean,
right.
They talk about, like, terrible twos. Honestly, it's when the kids go through the threes are some of the hardest years because he's smart enough, so he's resilient in how he, takes orders and listens. But he definitely is a tough cookie for being the third one. He's got to fit in. So
yeah,
he's figured it out.
Oh, it's great, man. It's great. No, you got a beautiful family, and I'm one of 3. 3's a good effort, especially we'll talk about later on with everything you got going on in life. But yeah, back to like the rookie, I guess. All that stuff. Remembering the names. I find it fascinating how cutthroat the NFL is. Like you said, like that guy that got cut. Why did he get cut? Is it like an obvious thing, or is it just literally like, I'm not liking the way he's moving, let's get rid of him?
Yeah, I think his performance, like, wasn't performing well. Maybe wasn't putting in the effort outside of the practice times. And sometimes, it's attitude problems or cultural, misfits, but
yeah,
I think this one was just performance. And, it's like, all right, well, if you can't be consistent in practice, I can't rely on you in a game. See ya. It's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. That's crazy. It's funny because in our sport we always used to laugh, but the older guys, or I don't know, maybe the same in yours, but the older guys wouldn't really remember your name until you started performing or doing something. So you kind of, you're trying to impress them, but realistically, until you play a game and you put your body on the line, they kind of don't really look at you until that happens. So exactly. It's very similar, but yeah, 90 guys' names in a playbook like yours is crazy. 2011, things start obviously heating up for you. Your numbers for everyone listening, but 44 catches, 612 yards, and 8 touchdowns. The touchdown beast starts to get rolling. What was that like? Did you start to think, hey, I'm starting to arrive? I know that this is where I should belong. And what was going through your mind, I guess, with your mindset?
Yeah, I think that was a good year for me because I felt healthy finally. Even 2010, I was kind of lingered with the foot injury and trying to heal and get myself kind of at full force. And the off season of 2010 leading 2011, I finally had my feet under me, got to get out there and practice a lot more. I still was limited, again, leading up to the year of 2010 and didn't play a lot through the year, special teams, some games towards the end on offense. But 2011, so Kyle Orton was our quarterback, and we were on a roll together. I mean, I think I had 6 or 7 of those touchdowns in the first 8 weeks.
That's cool.
And then they, benched Kyle Orton, brought in Tim Tebow, and the offense kind of flipped to a more running style game. But it was yeah, to your point, like great to kind of build that confidence. Like, okay, I can play. I can line up against these guys and score touchdowns, get catches, and do it game after game. And so that was, I think, a good building block to my career.
Yeah. It must suck, man, like, as such a good receiver when they start just running the ball. Like, when you go to the huddle and they say we're going to run it, well, you boys go out wide and you got to, what I'm saying, you got to really run your route as if you're going to receive it, but you know that you're not getting it. That must be frustrating as a receiver.
Well, I'll give you an example. So there was a game, let's see. Yeah, it was 2011 versus Kansas City at Kansas City. This is the game we threw the ball 8 times and completed it 3 times. And that doesn't happen in the NFL. You usually throw the ball at least 20 times a game. And we'd be on the sideline, and our coach would come up to me and Demaryius Thomas and say, hey, guys, next series, we're going to get you the ball. Next series, we'll try to get you the ball. It kept being the same conversation because all we were doing was crack blocking. So basically, we were running at the safety who was running full speed to make a tackle and throwing our body in front of him. Every play. Like I'm telling you, 60 probably plays like that. And so we were basically extended linemen, as receivers at that point. And just, it is tough. It's like, man, you know what? I just want to run around and catch the ball. That's what I like to do. And so there's moments definitely where it's like, what are we getting ourselves into?
And then during the week, because this is why I find so fascinating the way that the team is structured and you're all split into the receivers. But as a receiving corp, you'd go in and have your meeting. But when you're running the ball you're passing the ball 3 times. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, not much. It's a pretty short meeting. We'll have, maybe how to block, I guess, is more of the conversation at that point.
Is there frustration from your head, like your receivers coach to the offensive coordinator saying fucking throw the ball? Or
well, to a point, yeah, but we also know that it's not our strength. So we're trying to play to the strength of the quarterback and really our offense at that time. And we had such a good defense that we thought, okay, well, if we played the ball control game, meaning holding on to it as long as we could to keep it out of the other team's hands, we'd be fine because we didn't have to score many points because our defense would hold the other team.
Yeah.
And so I think that was kind of the mentality as well, is like, all right, we're not as consistent throwing the ball. Let's just run the ball, keep the clock running, and see what happens at the end of the game, which, like I said, Tebow finds a way to bring us to a victory.
yeah, that's man. I'm just started getting like I'm heavily involved in the fantasy. We play fantasy down here, all the boys, and I hate games like that, man. And I wake up early and if I watch a game where they just run it, I just lose my mind. It's just boring to watch. It's so boring.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't really understand. I looked up, but so did they trade Tebow? They cut him because the sheriff rocks up. But how did he rock up? Did they say it's time to move on? We need something else.
Yeah. They signed Peyton, and then they moved Tebow through a trade to New York, the Jets. And I'm not sure what they got for it. I think like a 6th-round draft pick or a 5th-round draft pick, something. They got a draft pick for moving him to New York. When the sheriff came to town.
So when the sheriff comes into town, especially you and your boy Demarius, what like where did you see it? Did it pop up on the news? When did you find out, and how excited were you to have someone like the sheriff roll in?
So my receiver coach at the time, who became our offensive coordinator, called me, forget what month it was the off season, and said, "Hey, I need you to come to the facility right now." I'm like, "Hey, why, what's up?" He goes, "Peyton Manning's here. You guys need to introduce yourselves." And I was like, "What?" Oh, I'm like, "Okay." And there was a little buzz in terms of what teams were after him. I think San Francisco at the time. There's another team as well that was kind of heavily after him. And Denver was in the discussions, but not as heavily. And so I was like, wow, this is real. So I pull up. There's media out there kind of waiting. They're trying to figure out, like, what are you doing? Because I don't think they knew he was in the building. And walk in. It's like, that's Peyton Manning. It's like, holy shit. And introduce myself. And I've come to find out that, I think Denver was an attractive place for him because we had a really good left tackle at the time. So that's kind of his blind spot. So he knew he felt protected. He just had a major neck surgery. He didn't want to get hit a lot, in the pocket. So he wanted to make sure his offensive line was solid. And also, I think having a young receiving core that I think was hungry, was good, was another attractive point to him, which, it's really cool to know now that was me and Demarius were one of the reasons why he came to Denver. And I mean, just once he signed, it happened so fast. Honestly, I think he showed up and he's like, to the practice field, let's go. And he's a guy that just worked. We worked. We worked between meetings. We worked between periods in practice. We worked in the off season, and he was one of those guys that did it the right way, and I'm thankful to have been around and really appreciated the game more for it.
Yeah, I love it, and he sounds like we'll talk about him in depth soon because I think he's fucking hilarious. I find him so funny, man. I missed most of his career. I got the back end a bit like yourself, but he is so funny, man, and I didn't realize how good he was until obviously. He's one of the GOATs, but how important is it to train? Like when you said you're training in between meetings and off the field, are you talking about like doing extra reps? Are you talking about watching film? Like what exactly are you doing?
Yeah, a combination of it all. So when we're on the field, and a lot of our practices, probably similar to yours, there's periods. So it'd be certain things that you would practice. We'd start with individuals, meaning receiver drills, get warmed up, get your hands ready to go, and then go into like more 7-on-7. So it's more just route running against the defense, and then you go into team periods where it's 11-on-11, practicing both your strategies. And so as we would play against the number 2 defense, as the number 1 defense would play against the number 2 offense. So when we were on a break, we'd be on the other field running routes, walking through a whole bunch of stuff, because when you're at the line of scrimmage with Peyton Manning, it's not just what play was called in the huddle. He could give you a signal. He could change the whole play. There's a lot of things going on, so being able to react quick was important. And so those are the things that we'd work on the practice field. And then, in the between meetings, I say it's film. It's like, okay, well, see how this guy is running this route, or see the safety and what he's doing, or where the void is in the zone. A lot of different, just cerebral things that would help you get to the right spot, because he was a guy that was getting the ball out quick. And if you're not in the right spot at the right time, you will not play. So that was key for him to be able to trust that you knew what he was thinking.
Yeah. I'm so fascinated by the huddle, right? So he comes in, if he's calling 3 or 4 plays, obviously cancelling them and changing audibles, all that kind of stuff, what's he saying and what's he doing as a signal to you if you're out wide?
So for a while we called it a value menu, and it was 1 through 10, and they all had names as well. But he would basically say, like ice cream was basically no snap. There's all these different terms for ice cream, turtle, all these things that would say, hey, turtle, 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 ice cream, ice cream, ice cream was no snap. So he'd be up there and be like, Mike check 52, ready, and he'd just try to get the line, the defense to jump, or he want them to kind of, a lot of post snap adjustments from the defense to try to hide what they're doing, because that's why Peyton was so good. And so he'd get them to show their cards in a sense, and then he'd go, okay, then he'd signal. We had a lot of signals, like Jose, or let's see, like an under route, just a lot of different things. He would give you signals for the most part is what we do, and then boom, we'd run. Or if we wanted to play fast, because in Denver, with the altitude, we would just wear people out. We just go, and you would see the defensive linemen are gassed, linebackers, and that's how we would put up all the points. And I think,
which is great. It's great to watch.
We still have all those records. I mean, we have the most touchdowns, most passing yards, most guys combined, 5 guys that had 10 plus touchdowns. I mean, we were a machine that year in
2013, yeah. You guys were machines. Let's go your numbers. 2012, the sheriff does arrive, and you go 85. You have 1,064 yards and 13 touchdowns. That's massive, man. Clearly, how many was Demarius the same? I didn't look at his numbers, but he would have been right up there as well.
Yeah. I think he was right at 10 or 11 that year, and then he had 14 the next.
Yeah, you guys swapped. Yeah. What I find, so when you get to the red zone, because it's such a TD beast, clearly the opposition know they're going. Well, they know where they know who it's going to. What I found when I watched the tape and watched your highlights, you're just so consistent with your route running, but your strength, and you always took the ball clean. I didn't see many drops. Does Peyton just kind of look at you and say, "I'm going to throw it to you, just fucking get open," or what's especially when you're isolated, like a 1v1? He's here going, "I'll back you in. I'm going to put it here. You get it."
So situational football is like red zone, in the red zone, and third downs, and a lot of those plays were scripted in the sense the coaches, Peyton himself, maybe things that we found out through practice, were on the short list. So when you got down to the 10-yard line, you had 4 or 5 plays to pick from. When you got to the 5-yard line, same thing. And, basically that was 25 yards and in. And so you kind of get to the point where he wants to spread it out to everyone, but you know what your strengths are. And so it's a lot tighter, confined. You don't have the ability to run over the defense, so you got to be able to have good routes. And that was my strength. So I think I succeeded more there because I was precise with the route running and I understood how to set guys up, or really dictating what coverages they're playing and knowing where, like I said, the zones are, or the soft spots. But there was times too, you get to the line and they may show an all-out blitz and be like, all right, just run this. And we always had combination routes, whether it was a little pick or a rub or just a fade. And those things also, we just every day just worked on just period after period. And so we got so efficient with it that we knew this is the route. Okay, let's go and execute it. And we were pretty efficient.
So efficient, really efficient. Before we go to the next year, because it's a huge year, but what I've heard so much about Peyton and his leadership, and I heard the key word was relationships, which I love because I think that's so important. What would he do off field for the group, not only for the receivers, but the whole group? What are some of the things that you found that he would do to bring the group together?
What's fascinating about Peyton is that, he could meet 1,000 people and he honestly would remember everyone's name. And he was very personable at lunch or dinner, and that's at the facility. He would sit by a different group or different guy and have conversation, get to know him personally, ask questions, some simple things you feel like, but not everyone does it. They kind of get in their little cliques or sit at the same table because being athletes are kind of creatures of habit. But he'd go around and he would build those relationships, and I think that speaks volumes to his leadership because that's how you build trust. That's how people value and want to, go to war in a sense or battle with you. Is I trust this guy, he's in my corner, let's go. And that was huge. And then outside of that, we would do smaller groups dinners and kind of see his true colors outside of football. Because when you get between the lines with Peyton Manning, he is the general. He is just, everything is for a purpose. Outside the lines, in the locker room, at dinner, I mean, like you said, he's got some of the driest humor I've been around, and his timing's really good. Obviously, why he's had so much success with his commercials and his TV personality. And so it was really, really cool, you know, the amount of success he had, just kind of the simple-natured Southern gentleman he was, and really, really enjoyed spending time with him.
Yeah, he sounds like a great man. Would love to meet him. Going into, actually 2012, and this is why I shouldn't be wearing this top, because I didn't realize, dude, like, do you think, looking back now, that 2012, I don't know, this is a quote, but was 2012's list better than 2013? Did you think 2012 was the opportunity, even though you did go to the Super Bowl? Was that it?
Yeah, I think that was, we had the better team that year than Seattle was so dominating defensively in 2013 that, I mean, we made a lot of mistakes in the Super Bowl, but they were a really good football team. And I think 2012 was our opportunity to win it, to be truthful. I mean, a Hail Mary at the end of the game, I mean, the odds were like 98, 99% in our favor of the game being over and moving on. And just a really bad play by our safety, and they ended up scoring a touchdown, going overtime, and we lost. And so that was heartbreaking. And that was, I feel like, the year I could have got a ring, because I didn't the next year.
Yeah, because I didn't realize, but you only lost 3 games during the regular season. You won like 10 or 11 in a row, and then leading into the playoffs, which was the first game. I was like one and done. But yeah, far out, man. It is devastating looking back. You were so close. And then so then what goes through your mind in preseason, off-season? So off-season more so. You're obviously so dog hungry for that ring. You got so close. What are you and Peyton, Demarius, the whole team? What are you working on?
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of get away from it for a little bit and recharge the batteries, kind of heal up physically in a sense, and then just get back to the grind. I mean, every year is different. The team changes, right? I mean, some guys leave, some guys get cut, new guys come in, and it's forming kind of what that team's going to look like and the identity of it the next year. But I think there was a lot of, excitement about the potential as well going into the offseason, thinking, all right, well, if this is what we could have done on our first year, just think of what we can do in the next year to build off that. And so, we go to Duke University and do these workouts, and it's just business as usual. Just get out there, running through our stuff, leading up to the off season or training camp, and that was kind of the mentality. It was just like, let's zone in. We know what we can do. Let's just get after it.
When you say off season, because our sport's different. So like in AFL, our sport's it's hard, man. Like you're running 15 Ks a game. You got to be quick, agility wise, playing defense, offense, depending on your positions. Like key positions, more physical and contested, but we've got a lot of endurance. So I'd imagine, what would a off-season program look for you as a wide receiver?
Yeah, it was so definitely a mix of everything. So beginning of the off-season, kind of building up the cardio part of it, building up the endurance so you can every day just go out and just run. We never ran as much as you guys, but we definitely run a lot, through a span of a week. And then towards the middle half to leading up to camp was kind of the strength building, trying to put some muscle mass on to be able to sustain kind of the 17-week season and the hits and the physicality of the game. Because during the season, it was more about maintaining, like you'd have your bumps and bruises and you try to keep your weight on, your strength up, again, just for the long haul. But I would say a lot of the endurance part definitely came early to kind of build that up. And there's different facets to it. So we would take a few months off. We report in April, and from April to August, we'd have really, I guess, April to July have our summer workout, and then have 3 weeks off, and then start training camp. So that was kind of the team phase of building for the next year.
Are you boxing? Is it running? Is it stairs? Like, is it just anything that's cardio? What do you?
It's a combination of a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, there was for like endurance wise. I mean, it was running hills. It was, more so just on the field. So whether it was, 100-yard sprints, doing, a set of those, like 15 of those with a minimum break, and then obviously the workout stuff afterwards. But I wouldn't say we did anything crazy in terms of like incorporating boxing or incorporating any kind of other endurance type stuff. It's more football related or running.
Which is good. And then before we start 2013, talk to me about preseason camp. Like it's 2 weeks of just. Is it hell, or do you like it? Like,
no, I hate it.
It looks terrible, man. Like, it looks like they cram what I think a block of 2 months work into 2 weeks.
Everyone, I think, dreaded training camp. I mean, this is like they wanted to see how tough you were. They wanted to try to break you. I mean, it was kind of military thought process in terms of, okay, the strongest or the strong and the fit survive. And so, I mean, it was obviously the reason to practice what our plays were and get it, I guess conditioned in that sense for games. But for sure, they would try to break you. And not only that, but it was you wake up at 7 in the morning and you don't go back to the hotel till 9 o'clock at night. And you got a little break after lunch to take like a cat nap. But just the long day after day would just, kind of wear on you.
Yeah, man, it looks hectic. It looks so, like, just knowing what a preseason looks like for us, and then to be able to concentrate with all your plays and all that kind of stuff must be so hard. Okay, quick time out. Half time. It's half time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you really liked that. We just start to heat up now, so plenty more to come. One more episode of Eric Decker. Before I go, huge shout out to Cap Z. How good are they? I just got 2 sent to me. They've got everything you need as a sports fan. NBA is up and about. Make sure you check it out. Black Friday sales are on. Ricks are going hard. Cap Z's going hard. Check it out, and I'll see you next week. Good on ya.